Hey everybody, I'm Laura DiCarlo of Career Directors International. If you're starting, currently thinking about starting, or actively building a resume writing or career coaching business, I am so glad you've joined me today. In this show, we share tools, strategy, and mindset tips. That's not a good start. Tripping over my own tongue already. Mindset tips that lead to your ultimate success without the stress. My guest today is Cliff Flamer of Brightside Resumes. Hi, Cliff. Welcome.
Hey, what's up?
All right, you're going to get a chance to know Cliff here shortly. So, first, we're streaming on CDI's Facebook page, not the Facebook group. So, hopefully, you found us with that little change on our YouTube channel and on our LinkedIn page. But listen, the platforms can be funky. So I ask that when you comment in the chat, and I really hope that you will participate today, please include your name until we know whether we can see who you are or not. It's a lot more fun than me going, okay, this Facebook user says. And if you don't know me yet, my goal is to become your not so secret superpower. At Career Directors International, we provide everything you need to love and excel at what you do so you can make a difference while earning an exceptional living. As a reminder, I don't know what I'm going to say. So I guess I'm just super excited that I have Cliff with me here today. We were chatting before we got started. So today's topic, and again, I've got a few more things to say, but I will put it up here on the screen. We're talking startup and growth secrets with my special guest, Cliff Flamer of Brightside Resumes. So, hey, this is another perfectly timed guest having Cliff with us because the TORI Resume Writing Awards are open right now. This is the 24th season. And it's also fabulous timing because the resume writing mentoring bonus with me is going on only until the end of the month. And so, Cliff is in a unique situation because not only has he won and judged the TORI Resume Writing Awards, but he's one of only three, to have been awarded in our world's best resume writer competition. Yes, we've only done it once, but it was a completely unique competition in that everyone had the same note file to create the best resume possible, and it was judged by recruiters and HR directors. Which I find fascinating what they picked compared to what so many resume writers want to believe. Oh, recruiters and employers only want X. Well, we know that employers, recruiters will pick X, Y, and Z if given the opportunity. And if your resume isn't up to the level of Cliff's and they're competing, anyway. But that's why we do what we do, so you can be a world's best just like Cliff. Anyway, before I formally introduce him, if that wasn't enough accolades to throw at you, I just want to ask you to do three things. First, if you're with us now, please jump on the chat, which I'll go ahead and click on so I can see the stream, and let me know who you are. Say hello. Again, include your name. Second, if you have questions while Cliff and I are talking today, please put them in the chat. Great opportunity. We're here. Do it. And third, if you like what you're hearing and want to get more of the show, be sure to like, follow, and or subscribe, depending on your platform, as we go live every Wednesday at 3:45 p.m. Eastern. All right, so let me tell you a little bit more about Cliff. He is the CEO of Brightside Resumes, a full-service resume writing and career coaching company based out of San Francisco. He is nationally certified as a professional resume writer and career counselor and has a master's degree in career and college counseling with a bachelor's in English. Prior to leading Brightside, he worked as a senior recruiter in Silicon Valley, where he engaged hundreds of Bay Area employers and elevated the careers of job seekers at all levels. The author of It's Not You, It's Your Job Search, Cliff has appeared on NPR's California Report and this is where I say I can't see what I'm reading, earned placement in numerous career books, including my iconic series, Resumes for Dummies. He writes a Monday morning blog aptly titled Sincerely Cliff, where he speaks his heart about work, hidden joy, the kindness of strangers, and being a dad. And finally, I'll add what he wrote when he filled out the form I had him fill out to be my guest about, what would you say is your claim to fame? Cliff says he hasn't had to sell his services for over a decade. And to achieve this, he's leveraging several unique strategies with credentials, a client self-assessment, slideshow, and a pop-up window that I'm hoping he's going to tell us a little bit more about as we go forward today. Cliff, can you tell I'm excited? I'm like tripping over my own tongue.
Yeah, let's have some fun.
So great to have you here. I have known Cliff since 2008 or before.
Yeah.
Very clearly on my radar in 2008. And like I said, he's been a TORI judge. He's been to CDI conferences. Let's see. In the chat, we've got Rebecca Boswell. Hi, Rebecca, coming in from LinkedIn. We've got Pete from San Francisco, and we've got Hal, who found us on the Facebook page. Excellent. I'm glad you made that transition. It's kind of messy what Meta is doing to all of us today. If anybody else wants to say hello and welcome Cliff, please do so. All right, Cliff, when did you start your business?
That is an easy date for me. That's 2006. And it's easy because it was the year my daughter was born. So on the same day, or maybe it was the day after, but I graduated, I got my master's in career counseling and had my first kid, which I was freaked out about. So I didn't have a job lined up and I was a stay-at-home dad. Sort of like I kind of wanted to do it. I didn't know what I was getting into, but it also just seemed like the right timing. I could stay home. So I figured, I'll just run a business like while I'm raising a kid. So I wrote resumes kind of in between naps, while I was taking care of my kid. Yeah. That's how I got into it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Early stay-at-home dad, I mean, it's
yeah. I wouldn't have given that up for anything.
Yeah.
It's the bond I have with my daughter and just learning that is the hardest work there is. And whenever, especially guys say, hey, I'm working all day, you're home with the kids. It's like working is easy compared to raising an infant. Honestly, I completely mean that. Yeah.
Yes, I'm childless, but I can only imagine.
Oh man.
Especially the juggling of an infant, an infant business and an infant child. Wow. More power.
Yeah.
All right, we have somebody on LinkedIn. I can't see your name, but it says, "Hi, Cliff. Greetings from New York City."
All right.
Welcome. If you want to tell us who you are, just drop your name in the chat. And hey, if anybody wants to tell us when they started their business, please put that in the chat as well. So tell us a little bit more about your business.
Well, it's mainly resume writing and career coaching, like probably a lot of people on this call. So I work with, and I've kind of made it a point to always work with a broad range of people. I'm seated in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, so I get a lot of tech people, and I love tech folks, not just engineers, but anybody in the tech industry. So I'm across all disciplines and all levels. I still like graduates, I mean, I'll still work on a high school resume, usually for free, or a college resume. But then I'm also doing Fortune 500 executive resumes on up to the CEO. And what's kind of cool about that is I feel like each can feed into the other. Sometimes I'll have an executive who wants to go back to school, and I just finished talking with a grad in a cool sustainability program, and here I am up on the hippest, coolest degrees to tell this person about. And then, of course, it works the other way. Yeah. Where I can say, I know your path. You want to be a COO? I can give you an idea of what that looks like and some ways that you can get there. So I kind of have my hands in all these different worlds by discipline, by industry, by level too. The other thing I would say, if I do specialize, my phone just went off, I will turn it over. If I do specialize, it would be with, and I did a talk on this, on like unconventional, non-traditional career paths. So I really enjoy when somebody comes to me and says, I had to stop my career and be a shoe salesman for a while. And now I want to go back and I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I love it. And I like, I like the challenge of it, but I also like the gratification of freeing that person up again and getting them back to work. So bring your challenges. Is what I have to say.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
challenging transitions, they're so fun, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it takes you have to have that puzzle mentality, that ability, that willingness and desire to pick up all the pieces.
Yeah.
But yeah, that used to be a
Yeah.
favorite of mine as well. Is bring me your crazy challenges, and I will find the way to make it work. ATS makes it a little bit more challenging to
Yeah.
deal with challenges, but
You're
that's not.
right about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not all that makes up job search, luckily. So okay, so
Yeah.
we know that you were a recruiter
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
while you were going and working on your master's and before you started your business. And obviously, we understand why it made perfect sense to start your business. I'm kind of curious. Um, did you know you were going to start this business? I mean, what made you decide?
Yeah. Oh God, no. I didn't know it was an industry. I didn't know it was a business. So I got the order of things is I got a degree in English. You've kind of heard pieces of this over the years, I'm sure. I got a degree in English, and I had no idea what I was going to do with that. I did love writing, right? So I was writing in my journal, writing short stories, but not really sure what I was going to do with work. And my first job was at a bookstore in San Francisco, a place called Ninth Avenue Books. Its sister store is still alive, Green Apple Books on Third Ave in the Richmond. Unfortunately, Ninth Avenue didn't make it. I'm not sure why. It was just a fantastic job. I didn't even know how good it was going to be, but it was a lot of fun. So, without going too far into that, one thing that's cool is people come into the store and they're usually like on a hunt, they're whether
Mhm.
like I want to start gardening and I don't know how, or I'm traveling, or like even just what's a good book. I like, you just kind of go on this adventure with people. And it's a blast. I just love being around books. So I did that, but I was getting like $7 an hour. So I couldn't do that very long. And I remember signing a lease before I figured out how am I gonna pay rent
Ah,
on the salary, but I had to do it. So I signed the lease, and then I got this job as a recruiter. And the way I got the job is because it was recruiting tech writers, and in the listing, it said we're helping technical writers, and I actually didn't even know what that was.
right.
Because I'd yet to become a career expert or anything. I just like the word writer. And I'm like, okay, I'll work with writers. I'll support writers. I can do it. That's how I found my way into recruiting, which I was very, very good at. So it's kind of like matchmaking. That's at least how our firm did it.
Hmm.
It wasn't a hard sell. We weren't headhunters. It was just here we have 50 jobs and here we have, hundreds of applicants or candidates. And it's just finding a match between the hiring manager and the candidate. And for me, that was, I don't know, it was pretty easy. I didn't realize it was hard until we hired people and they failed at it. And I realized, wait a minute, maybe there's a skill here that I have. So I did that based out of San Mateo for 4 years. Made a really good friend out of my mentor, who is the head recruiter, really great guy, still friends with him. I'll give a plug. The company is Synergist Tech Communications. They're still around, and the president's Andrew Davis, who's great guy, and we had cornered the market on tech writing. So I'm sure he's still the go-to guy in that regard. So I did recruiting and of course work with all these hiring managers, went into all the places in Silicon Valley, and really got fascinated by that process. But my favorite part was talking to candidates, was talking to job seekers. I'm sure you can relate. And the people who are listening, I found I'd stay late just to hear like, what was your trajectory? Oh, how did you make that transition? And I'm still just genuinely really interested in that, even off the clock. So that is how it started to become career. The way it got into resumes, and thank you for accepting my long answer, is as recruiters, you'd have to tweak the resume a little bit, right? So you would steer it towards the job, right? In a very honest way. You weren't being shady or anything. But I loved it. Like, I really started, like, spending some time. I'd spend, like, 20 minutes, which was a lot, sort of adjusting it to the point of I remember one of my colleagues who was also a mentor, a tech writer turned recruiter. She called me something like, if I'm remembering right, the Michelangelo of resumes.
Nice.
We're gonna laugh. But just she knew that I had done art in school and I just am an artist by identity. And so it was a real compliment. And she's just saying, you really took time to, like, make it this unique work of art to get the attention of the job seeker. So I liked it. I didn't realize that was a career. It wasn't until recruiting completely tanked in 2001, and that's recruiting everywhere, that we were sort of sitting around and I was saying, wow, I thought I was going to recruit here for the rest of my life. And I had to figure out what to do next. So I thought about what I liked, and it was working with the candidates and working on resumes. And that kind of led me in an obvious direction. Yeah.
I love it. And one you
Yeah.
could do from home. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So many
Even
perks.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that Michelangelo of resume writing.
I've recently been called the Quentin Tarantino of resumes.
Oh,
More
like
edge to it. I really like that. Yeah.
I would love to see those resumes.
Yeah.
Those
Oh
are
yeah.
those would be rather explosive. I'm sure in a good way. In a good way.
Bloody and explosions everywhere. Yeah.
The Quentin Tarantino of resumes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Yeah, what you were saying about liking talking to job seekers, I used to always put my clients at ease because I would say, it's going to be the first time anyone has ever asked you, tell me about yourself, and really wanted to pull every detail out of you. I would say, I am very interesting at cocktail parties, but incredibly dangerous at real life because just enough to talk about it, but you certainly couldn't do it.
Yeah, you learn a little bit of everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really voyeuristic.
yeah, yes,
You just get
exactly.
to peer in for a
Yeah,
minute. Yeah.
I love it, and I love that you're sharing. Because it sounds like a no-brainer that you have an English degree. Of course, you'd go be a resume writer. I have an English degree too, and I didn't know what tech writing was, and I studied it because when I graduated, I was qualified to do nothing as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
Like you said, write in a journal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's what my teacher told me, like, on graduation day. I'm like, "This is a little late," you know? He just said, "An English major pretty much says you're a good person," you know? And I'm like, "What? That's not marketable?" Yeah, it was a little bit it's scary for us kind of humanities, the people who go to school for the life of the mind or get you don't have an arrow pointing anywhere,
right, right.
and that could be, in retrospect, looks like a virtue, but in reality, when it's happening, it's terrifying,
Yeah,
right?
my
It's
parents were terrified. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's right. My
I,
dad could find after I got the recruiting job, he's like, "To be honest, I was worried." I'm like, "What's Cliff gonna do?"
Yeah.
And
No, exactly. I mean, I started out as a pre-med bio major by my parents' choice and not by
Oh.
mine. I wanted to do art. I wanted to write.
Oh, wow.
They were
Yeah.
like, "All right, if you get this bachelor's degree in this, like it was some, tortured soul pursuit." They're like, "Would you promise to do your graduate studies in something serious where you can make this hobby into a living?" And I was like, "Uh-huh, yeah."
Uh,
But
yeah,
still, I didn't have the eye
you
opening.
had to bargain. Yeah.
Right? My eye opening, you got the great job as a recruiter. My eye opening
Yeah, yeah.
was I went to a job fair at my university upon graduation, and the only company that was there for English majors was a textbook publisher. And
Yeah.
literally, and I'm not I'm not saying this is not like to say that a blind person couldn't function in a textbook company, but if this isn't like saying something to send a blind woman with a sign that says, "Thanks for your interest in such and such textbooks. We're not hiring at this time," to sit in school, I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? Go back to school. But anyway, I love that you said English degree to become a recruiter for tech writers, because it's just such proof that there's always an angle we didn't see. You know, you're a job seeker who stumbled upon this today, or you're thinking about, well, will I be a fit even though I'm coming from this seemingly bizarre industry that has never touched a resume except for personal use. We can always find a connection and make it work.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right. Joan says hi, and Pete says Andrew Davis when you were talking about the
is San Francisco. Of course he knows Andrew Davis. Yeah.
And I finally figured out the one from New York City and Pete, whose name I'm sure you recognize, they're coming from your stream. I've never had anyone actually follow through and pair. So
okay, cool.
Wow, which is awesome.
No, it's a cool platform. It's neat that it's able to integrate like that.
Is. Oh, Pete says, are there only 8 minutes left? Resume No, there are 8 minutes left. That's so weird because I don't even put an end time on.
Yeah.
We typically we have almost an hour. We have just under an hour left, and a lot of great questions we're digging into. So hopefully.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. So when did you find CDI?
Oh, well, you've mentioned it already. It was the world's best resume writer competition. Obviously that caught my attention. I said, maybe I should try for that. And there were a lot of candidates, a lot of people did it. I won. It got me your attention. I remember you called, and I got to connect directly with you. So that really connected me to CDI. I had to recognize that award made my business just blow up, right? I did maybe 1 or 2 press releases, but more than that, it's just stamping it right on the homepage. And I don't think it's there anymore. It's been a while, but I had that front and center, and people, they're just intrigued by it. And of course they're like, well, I want my resume written by an award-winning world's best resume.
Right.
So my gratitude, immediately was like, thank you, CDI. Thank you, Laura. It was huge. But then I just sort of peeked, at the website, looked and realized, wow, there's so much here. And there just continues to be more and more and more. So I've taken the courses, I've done webinars, and maybe most importantly, I just stay really connected and make new friends and new kind of accountability buddies, right? Mastermind group, cohorts. Like, it just seems to come through there, because they're, the best of the best are in there. And I like that it's resumes, but also coaching, right? It's a great combination. It does both. And one is not the afterthought of the other. It's recognizing the union there.
Right.
So that's going to be, that would be what, 2008? So that was like 2 years, in. So, but, those 2 years were pretty slow. I will say that, right? Just gearing up. Granted, I was half asleep taking care of a kid, ramping up. But, it's a demarcation, I'd say, 2008, 2009. Yeah.
And that's how much, for my audience, if you're in this profession and not just a fan of Cliff, but actually in any profession, a recognition, an award, you can leverage that. Like he says, it's not even on my homepage anymore, but he still uses that from way back. I mean, that competition was odd in that it started in 2008 and we didn't award the winners until 2009.
It was clearly a huge undertaking.
It was huge. It was huge.
Yeah.
And we not only had the recruiters and the HR people vote, but when they picked their top 3 and then we asked them to rank them, we also did a public vote where
Mm,
friends, family, resume writers, anybody on social media who stumbled upon it could vote as well, so that our top 3 had had 2 different scored wins. Because I know I myself was super curious to know, this is what recruiters and employers liked. How does that compare? And
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, like People's Choice. I
yeah, the
love it.
People's Choice Award. Exactly, exactly.
And
So
they're a little less they're like, I don't really I think anyway, regular people aren't looking to be dazzled by it so much as like, would I hire this person? Do I know what they did? It's just, they're not trying to be impressed, you know
right.
what I mean?
But
So
how
is it
interesting
functional?
was it?
Right?
Sorry, Cliff, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, no, it's cool. Go ahead.
How if anybody wants to see these, we have under our job seeker. Actually, I don't. Are the resumes up there? Yes, they are, because I just looked at them a couple days ago. But you'd have to go to careerdirectors.com, click on job seekers in our navigation, and then there's actually on our list there of resources for job seekers, there's award-winning resumes. And you do have to go back to 2008, 2009 on that page, but you'll find the world's best winners. And you can see that way back then, recruiters and HR professionals, HR directors, and we have the list of who our judges were. They were picking every one, all 3 of those had color in them
Mm.
at the minimum.
Mhm.
That was like the minimum design element. So I have to laugh today when I hear like, oh, recruiters don't like that stuff, or, HR doesn't
Yeah, very
like that
good.
stuff. And it's not just about the design, though. It's got to be the most powerful writing. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got sessions coming up on that in my show in June, and for members starting next month. But it's pretty cool. And what really matters is, when you go for an award, when you get nominated or you win, it's what you do with that. I mean, Cliff could be world's best, and yes, our page has become super popular and people find it, but
Yeah.
he has leveraged that over the years. And whether you're a world's
Yeah.
best or you're the first, second, third placed or nominee in a category in the TORI Awards, there is a reason why we're 24 years into the awards, because they work.
24.
24 years, I know it's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll just point blank, if you don't have an award yet, you should try to win an award. I just think clients are impressed by that. It's a good little talking point. And for yourself, it's like you get to see how you measure up. So if you don't place, you're realizing, "Oh, crap, maybe I should take a course or something and level up a little bit." It's just a great barometer, and every once in a while, I jump in, and I judged that the other year, right? But
Yeah.
every once in a while, I'll jump back in and say, "Alright, yeah, let me see how I'm doing, because times change and
Yes.
resume standards change."
Right,
And
right.
there's some pretty clever resumes in those piles. I mean, it's pretty impressive stuff out there, yeah.
Yeah, there is, but doesn't mean that anybody can't attain it with some time and sensitivity to their craft. Because, okay, so I'll just throw in here real quick, when I was mentioning the
Yeah.
upcoming events, if you are a CDI Association member, and if you're not, all you have to do is buy one TORI award to skip over the wait list, one TORI award entry to skip over the wait list and join. But if you are a member, we've got these 2 really great things coming up that I was going to talk about, but I'll throw them in now, since they're relevant. And
Mhm.
one is, I've been looking for this opportunity for over a decade now, and I got a 2023 person who submitted 4 resumes into 2 classic categories and 2 high design categories, and they didn't get nominated. And we're working one-on-one together on business. And I said, blah, 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 Tories, because I call them the number 1 lowest cost, highest ROI way to grow a resume business,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
that's what I'm told, and that's what they did for me all those years ago. And where they're like, well, I didn't get nominated, and I'm like, well, did you look at the winners? Did you analyze them? And they're like, yeah, I really can't see the difference. So we shifted our focus, and we looked at 2 of the resumes, and in 15 minutes, the person was like, I am blown away. I had no idea there were all these subtle things. These weren't design things. A few of them were, but they weren't like,
Mm.
oh, you need fancy graphics and you need design.
Yeah.
Like,
Eye charts. Yeah.
yeah, you need to do this in your interviewing of clients to gather this type of information, and you need to make these changes. And I said to the person, I'm like, would you anonymously volunteer your resumes for a member webinar where I get to point
Yeah.
out and compare, because it's eye-opening to me to realize that people can't figure out why. And they're like, well, mine was just as good, but I can always see it. So
Mhm.
this person said yes. And so the webinar we are having for members, all our member webinars are included. That's Thursday the 30th, is me walking through 4 resumes and giving that kind of
Oh, cool.
awesomeness. And then that April bonus I was talking about is, if you imagine you want to work with me, and I used to do a group resume master mentor where I'd look at a resume each person wrote and give this live feedback on their resume. It was $500 a person for
Mm.
the 2 hour event. And then I do a one-on-one, which is 3 sessions. And it's a 4-figure investment, but everybody who's gone through it is now writing resumes that kick, excuse me, ass, win
Yeah.
awards if they want to. But I decided to do this bonus for April, and that is buy 10 TORI categories. There are only 10, buy all 10. That takes it down from 40 each to 25 each. So $250 investment gets you all 10 chances in the TORIs, but it gets you a seat in a free event with me where I'm going to do that for you. So
Yeah, good call.
basically a $500 value for 10 categories of TORIs and advice on your resume. So, so
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it sounds like much more than 500
yeah.
for your hourly rate, and
Well, it's
then
a group setting. It is a group. It's not,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
not a one-on-one, but it's a group, which means you get me to see me pick apart
Yeah.
other people's resumes, and it's anonymous unless you want to say it's your resume. But the value of that, even if you don't enter the TORIs, it's all gravy. So that's just it.
Yeah.
Cliff, would you give any other,
Art.
besides sign up, anything else you'd recommend on the TORI award front for anybody who's on the fence? Or
For what to do. And this is kind of my rule of thumb with resumes in general. Start with the content. So you kind of said this, just making sure it's written really well. But then, look for the patterns in the content and how you can organize it, and let that dictate the format instead of taking content and trying to just become a graphic designer or something. That's where I think the value is if you're going to be clever with your format, like, make it so you're directing the eye in the way you want to, so you're downplaying the right stuff. So, when you use columns, sometimes, something literally is a sidebar in somebody's career. So make it a sidebar, right? Things like that, I think are,
yes,
the reason you should do formatting, as opposed to just saying, it'd be great here, like a bar chart,
right,
don't
right,
do that.
yes,
And it's kind of more fun. It's more adventurous,
right.
you're like, letting it tell you what to do. And it sounds almost sort of woo woo. I let the resumes talk to me, uh, to design the format. Yeah.
But it is true, and that makes it more fun too. If you look,
Yeah.
I always said, look at every candidate like a puzzle where you pick up each piece, because you never know where the aha is going to come from that creates the entire mechanism of how you lay out that unique candidate's presentation. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's fun. It keeps us excited in what we're doing versus, okay, same format. Let me jam this information in.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah,
Take that and go. And with the creative category, or the categories that warrant more creativity, like, and I used to have a service for this, trying to make the resume exemplary of that industry or that person's role, right? Like, if they're a clown, I actually had a clown. Did like a two-tone resume where one side was the opposite color scheme of, so, and then like with a chef, I think we made it look like a menu,
Mhm. Yeah,
so that could be fun too, to kind of go in that direction. And
that's
then
fun.
a playwright, we just did a bill, made it look like a bill. And
Exactly.
not over the top. I'm not using Photoshop or InDesign. It's just Microsoft Word.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
the fanciest I ever got back in the day before Word could do as much as it does now was to use Microsoft Publisher. Um, and then I would design it there and then move it over because you just couldn't do those things in Word.
Yep.
Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yep.
funny. My very first award for first place most visually distinctive resume with another organization was for a chef that was set up like a menu.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, God, that was
Yeah. I mean, it's just right there. You can get the logo, yeah, you can go crazy with it.
yeah, that was back
Little
at
icons for hot peppers.
yeah, it's a lot easier than it was back in the 90s to use graphics in resumes. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that resume took me like 17 hours of clicking every pixel and changing the numerical value to make it a shaded background graphic. Oh, God.
Yeah,
Oh,
I found I think it was Tom Pounder actually who pointed me to it, but he might anyway. The website called Cool Icons, I believe it is.
okay.
Just real easy to use, and it has those nice black and white icons that work with a resume. You
Yeah.
can color it,
Oh,
but
that's
they're just very bold. Yeah, yeah, it's really worked for me when people want those kind of,
nice.
I tend to not want to clutter with that, but sometimes somebody wants something that exemplifies software engineer.
Yeah, sometimes
So
it's
anyway, throw
exactly.
that out there.
Yeah. So, you told us earlier about, it was such a welcome thing to be able to bond with your daughter and be a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
What else would you say having your own business has made possible for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the flexibility. That's number one, right? Like at my kid's school. So that was however many years ago. So she's 18 this month, next month actually. But I also have an 8-year-old. So we kind of went back in and did it again. So now I'm still on the playground is what I'm getting at. I'm
Yeah.
still at the elementary school. And people are always like, "You're like always here. Like, what's going on? Like, don't you have a job?" And it's not that I'm like just, hanging out there all the time, but I'm able to go to all the things,
Right.
and for
Right.
me, that's kid stuff. So I love that. And I mentioned the bookstore. I remember this is a while ago. I had hair like down to here, which certainly fits my vibe and my style here. But I had long hair, and I applied for a job at the bookstore. And he asked, "Why? Why do you want this job?" And I didn't have a great answer, like, "Well, books are, I read this." And I just was like, "Man," or maybe, "Dude, I just want a place where I could work with my hair down," because everybody wanted me to put in a ponytail. And I realized that metaphor kind of is a guiding principle of my life is like, where can I have my flip flops on?
Yeah.
It's, of course, I'm not going to give up a great opportunity or something. But, I've taught, I've worked in career centers, and I mean, I wasn't wearing flip flops, but it was laid back enough that I could really bring me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's sort of that's for me, again, that's a guiding principle is like, can I be myself like 100%?
I
It's
love it.
very, very, very important. And so this job, I'd say not only allows it, it requires it. If you're going to be a good coach or a counselor, you have to know yourself and you have to catch when you're bringing yourself into something where maybe you shouldn't, or like you're reacting because of who you are, not, in a way that's helping the client. And I think, my drive is to make sure people's authentic selves comes out and goes into the world and does great things, right? That's what I live for. I love doing it with kids, with adults. It's just kind of in me. And if I'm not authentic, why the heck would you listen to me when I tell you to be, right?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's huge. But on the other side of the coin, I had no idea I could make like multiple six figures, which writing resumes and being a coach, I had no idea that that would be the case. So it really is like a do what you love, the money will follow.
Yes.
It's great work. I mean, it's so rewarding every day. And then you can really make a good living at it, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always said it was an industry with a soul where you can make an incredible difference while making an amazing living.
Yeah.
Win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. That's wonderful. All
Yeah.
right.
I'm sure you resonate with that. Yeah.
Okay, let me just check the chat here real quickly. Yeah, Pete, we're good. We're going to keep wrapping over here for a while.
Pete, get back to work.
All right. Cliff, what's one thing you wish you had known when you first started your business, or if you were just starting today, is there something you would have done differently?
Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing when I first got started, it was fun thinking about recruiting. I didn't charge enough. And I think we're all guilty of that at some point, right? I remember when I graduated with the counseling degree or toward the end of that program, the teachers talked about pricing and everybody just started freaking out. Like, how am I going to ask people for money?
Yeah.
And then in resume writing, it's the same thing. So I charged like $95 for
Yeah.
a resume. $95. Like I probably worked on it for like 6 or 7 hours.
Yep. Yep.
So that doesn't work out to be that great a living. And I think I had a service that was $15. I called it feedback or written feedback or something. So I would write a page of feedback for $15, which with PayPal's cut, I'm making like $12 or something, barely paying for my lunch. It did get me started, but I just didn't. I could have elevated prices sooner, and I had senior people in the industry saying that. I remember, just having some real prominent figures saying, triple your prices, Cliff. I'm like, triple what? And I have since, well, not quite, but have gotten there. So with pricing, and I guess people that got MBAs and studied business would understand this already. But where you price things kind of dictates how people show up. So when you're really cheap, they don't take your business that seriously. It's sort of like, well, I paid $50, that's cool. Well, oh, I'm late, to the appointment. So
Yeah.
what? Or it's like, this isn't a legitimate business. So now I'm going to take all your time, because this isn't legitimate. So I actually found when my prices went up, I worked less. And people, probably the most important thing is people showed up fully, right? People were like really ready to go.
Yep.
And it made it much more rewarding for me rather than just kind of like begging them to be there and driving it. You have an equal there who wants to do it as much as you do. So it took me a while to learn that lesson. You were among them. He's saying, come on with the prices, bring the packages, bring the prices. And I was like, I don't know. So I came around,
Yeah.
and the caveat I'll put on prices is I think I could charge more, but it will also change who you get. And I told you I like working with grads. I like, I'll get like a taxi driver or a nurse's assistant or something. And I love it. So I don't want to price people out. And I feel like I could say, all right, yeah, it's 2,500. That's it. I'm only doing executives, but I like everybody. So I just have a tiered pricing system. Yeah.
And again, it's your business, so you get to do that, right?
Do what I want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. No, that's great.
Yeah.
Pricing.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
What's really interesting is you say $95 way back then. And I was thinking as you were saying it, how many people I see charging $95 today. And I'm like, oh my gosh. We actually found last year when we did that critical industry analysis survey that kicked off
Oh
my
yeah.
show, where I started sharing what was working and what wasn't, that if you were 300 or less for resumes, that was one of the two things that was causing you to most likely be struggling right now in your business.
Mm.
Because that's like low enough now that it's considered, almost like free and cheap. And why not just use AI? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. And back in my day in the 90s, it wasn't until my early career when I finally went over 300 that people took me seriously and stopped agonizing over every word and acting like I was this glorified typist. Instead, it was like, well, you're the expert. And yeah, the fact
Yeah.
that you can get there, I always say somebody told me this in my first year of business when I was ready to give up. And they were like, raise your prices. If everybody is saying yes, or most everybody is saying yes, it's time to raise your prices.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. And I mean, if you're doing anything beyond like having, like you said, AI or an assistant just drop content into a template, then you should charge more, right?
Yeah.
And it's we're bound to talk about AI at some point. Because AI can write a pretty mediocre to good resume, right? It can.
Yeah.
But what it can't do is kind of reach into the client and pull things out, right? If it's not on the internet, AI isn't going to be able to do anything about that. And oftentimes the secrets are like in the client, right? They're in the job seeker, sort of like, I never thought of it that way, or I haven't told anyone that, right? And
Yeah.
so if you are doing, whether through questionnaires or an interview, like extracting, like that is so valuable. And
Absolutely.
forget about like coaching and all. I mean, that's extremely valuable.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we all need that support.
Oh, yeah. And then the other thing you mentioned was packaging, and you made me remember that great testimony.
Oh, the packages.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, we have a great Cliff is
yeah,
part of the Career Industry Accelerator Club,
yeah, yeah.
and he was at a session, God, several years ago now, right? And
Yeah, it was at the beginning of, I think that you started that program. Yeah,
okay, it could have, yeah, that might be, but yeah, he's like, I love when people will just take an idea and go and immediately apply it, and then
yeah,
come back and tell me that it worked. That's even better.
yeah. Of course, right? You're getting the, yeah. So you're referring to, I had resumes separate from cover letters and LinkedIn, and everything was a la carte, and you could still do that. But now there's nothing like having somebody, order the full package, and it's, much bigger deal. They're with you longer. And of course, they're getting what they need,
Right.
as opposed to what they thought
They
they
need.
needed.
Which
Right.
are vastly different things. How many
Yeah.
times have we heard, if you're watching the replay or you're here with me now, and maybe comment in the chat, how many times have we heard, oh, if I just had a great resume, I have such personality, I'll do great with the rest. It's like,
Yeah.
being able to talk and sell like a product can be very different from selling yourself,
Yeah.
and you get asked that question like Cliff mentioned earlier, why do you want to work here? Yeah. um,
Yeah. That's right. So I can have my hair down. Don't
yeah.
say that.
Yeah, or you could do like the cover of Job Search Bloopers, the first book I co-authored with Career Press, and on the front there's art, and it says, "Why do you want to work here?" And the job seeker says, it's a cartoon that we had drawn. The job seeker says, "For the money."
Yeah.
And I'm laughing because I said that at a job fair because nobody told me I had to be prepared to. I thought
Yeah.
I'd be
Yeah.
asked questions about, skills and things, and why do I want to work there? Well, I wanted to work there. I'm a little ping pong in my brain. Money, holidays, insurance. I mean, 19, 18 years old, and I'd had jobs, but they had just been like, "Ooh, you have a pulse. Come on in." So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's people still say that, and it's true to some degree. It's like, I need a paycheck, period. But it's the money won't keep you there, you
right.
know. If it's a job you hate, you don't feel like you're developing yourself, you're likely going to get bored. It's best to sort of connect with the company in
Right.
some
Oh, yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Even if you start with, "Hey, I just need this job at Target." Like, it's at least looking into like, "Oh, that's kinda neat. I can work second shift."
Yeah.
That's helpful to me, and then lead with that. Can't help these coachable moments, Laura, they have to
No,
come
it's
out.
great.
But you lead with that, and then you come always bring the location and money at the very end if you mention it at all, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
that's the other one, it's like, "Oh, it's right down the street." I'm right down the street. I'm working with a guy now, he said that, he goes, "I'll just go in and tell him I live right down the way," and I'm like, "Yeah, don't do that,"
Don't do that.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like, that's the bonus. That's not the driving force, right?
Right.
And if it is, we should talk about that because
Yeah.
maybe it's not the job, right?
You're
Maybe you
right.
shouldn't take it.
And that's why
Uh,
packages are so valuable because you get that chance to be with the job seeker all through the process, and you're not worried that they're going to go bastardize this wonderful resume you created with the rest of their process and then go,
yeah,
I think your resume isn't working. I had one woman, I didn't
yeah,
write her
yeah.
resume years ago. She came to me for a resume consultation. I read over her resume and I was thinking, why is she even here? This is a really good resume. And I would never charge somebody if they didn't need the service. But I'm like, so tell me, how many interviews have you had? And she goes, about 100. And I'm like, uh,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I know. So I had to like
Wow.
be like, it's not the resume. The resume's job is to get you the interview. You've had 100 of them. We need to address. Nope. She ended up not hiring me, and it broke my heart because somebody probably were like, sure, I'll take your money to rewrite your resume. Um,
Yeah, but that's not the issue.
yeah,
I think gone are the days of 100 interviews. I don't hear that anymore. I'm
no,
sorry to say,
this is true.
not to go dark, but phew, man, I haven't heard that's not happening, People get interviews, but you gotta work.
It's more like I was up against 3,000 candidates for an interview. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Totally.
All right. So
Yeah.
let's move on because I could chat with you all day. I love this.
Yeah, totally, I'm glad to hear it, man. I'm enjoying it
So,
too.
yeah, so for those who are considering a career in the field or who are maybe struggling in their businesses right now, what's a few key pieces of advice you'd share?
All right, so
Additional advice.
yeah, 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 no, we don't wanna, uh there's so many things I wanna make sure I get if you're like, because struggle is such a big umbrella.
Yeah.
So, it you might be doing a bunch of stuff you don't wanna be doing. So I might start there, with, like, writing down everything you do and circling the stuff you wanna keep doing. Because it's very easy to outsource something to software
Mm,
or to another human being or to another service provider, right?
right.
You could say, I don't like writing those types of resumes or working with that type of client and just try to get rid of that. At least for me, that's really important because then when I sit down, it's not drudgery, right? I sit down and I'm excited because I'm going to do the work I want to do. So that's helpful to make work feel a little less like a struggle.
Yes.
Um, you can people may have thought of this, but I'll just underscore how much it works is referrals. So you could talk with other resume writers or go sort of adjacent to what you do. So I mentioned I went to school for counseling. So I just have a lot of therapists that say, hey, I don't want to touch career stuff at all. Can I send people? And it's awesome because, there's no better client than someone who's in or just been through therapy. They're the best, period, right? They've been introspective, they're open, they've had shifts happen in them. So it's great. So you get these high value leads,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
With almost no effort, you know? And you'll also find, and this is something where I'm grateful to CDI, is when you make a new connection and you set up those referrals. I mean, it's a fun conversation. You're talking with a peer, you're talking with another entrepreneur who is as excited to meet you as you are to meet them,
Yeah.
right? So it's, there's any amount of places you can go for referrals. And related to that, and thankfully I haven't had to do this in a while. Not that it's awful, but I'm just grateful for not having to market. Um, is speaking. So you could do a podcast or actually walk into a building and talk to somebody. There are just all associations in every industry, and they're always grateful for somebody to come in and talk about something.
Hmm.
And it was my counseling teacher, who was also a therapist, Dr. Bob Chope, became a mentor to great writer. And he was saying, just go in and promise something like that makes you kind of grow and stretch a little bit, and then go learn it and talk about it. It's so you might not be an expert on coaching, firemen or people in a firehouse, but go become that person and do it. And it's kind of like fun for you, and of course they appreciate it.
Right.
So pick a, association. Look up an association industry you're interested in. But that's a good way to just kind of spark something.
Absolutely.
And without fail, anytime I've spoken in an association, I've got at least one directly, and then of course indirectly.
Right.
I remember I spoke for I think it was is it AMBA, the Asian American MBAs, I think it was. And this was in San Francisco, and I still get an email from them every once in a while, just to say, hey, if you want to come in and do a workshop, right?
Yeah.
And it's a good feeling, right, to still be on their radar.
Yeah, that's impressive for sure.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
amazing too. I can still remember I worked on the journal for the Greater Orlando Society of Technical Communication newsletter when I was in um,
STC.
STC when I was in
Yeah,
college. And
yeah,
then I'm living here in Melbourne and I'm running my practice and I'm not doing tech writing anymore. So I'm not part of STC, and the local Melbourne chapter contacted me and they're like, we'd love to have you come and speak. And I thought, oh, this is just a total, I love to speak, and that was how I got a lot of my clients. But I was thinking this one is like, it's just a total giveaway for the people, my people. Um,
yeah, yeah.
they were literally the most receptive buyers. And I thought about it later. I got more clients from them than any presentation at that point that I'd ever had. And I thought about it later and I was like, well, yeah, somebody who works as a writer understands when you spell it out for them correctly, the complexities of doing a different kind of writing. You would no more go do a technical writing project if you hadn't done one before than you would take on a resume.
Yeah, yeah.
You've heard the complexities. So, yeah, pick an audience
Mm,
that resonates with you. And Cliff, while you were sharing those great tips, it
yeah.
reminded me that I just want to tell everyone that if you're on our waiting list for membership or you're a member, then you're going to get an email in the morning. I always send one out the morning after the show, and it has a link to the replay. And that page is invaluable because not only are we sharing some of Cliff's tips that he didn't talk about today, but I'm also sharing resources, and there'll be a big fat section of free resources for people who aren't members that are relevant to what we talked about today. And then there'll be the deep dive resources for members. And one of them, we've done some amazing things. We have best practice tip sheets on professional referrals and client referrals. I did 2 shows on those topics where I shared all the strategies because they were the number 1 and number 2 ways your colleagues are finding and growing their business in 2023. And then I have this awesome script that I created back when I used to do job fairs that you can scale from like a 10-minute job fair to an hour presentation, so that when somebody says, we'd love to have you come and speak, you don't end up talking about resume writing, which so many job seekers think is DIY. And then they're like, well, she just told me how to do it, so I'm going to go do it. Instead, I have this great interview script about the whole, there's only one winner, and uneven playing field where you can't see your competition, and it always
Mhm.
fills everybody's their calendar when they use the script. So definitely go over to the replay page so you can just soak and marinate in more of Cliff's goodness and get these other resources. All right.
Yeah, awesome. It really is almost overwhelming how many resources you have. It's quite a bit, and I often run into I'm like, this is free, I'm
I
like I know I pay membership, but it's like it's just kind of surprising, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, thank you. This
I
is
know.
free.
We do a
This
webinar
is
every
included.
single month with a great speaker, the best
Yep,
practice tips, the done for you. I mean, yeah, it's crazy, and
it's
it's
a
crazy
big.
to me because we charge less than one client a year for access to all of it. So it's like bang. Anyway,
Yeah,
I'm glad that if you're ever overwhelmed and looking for something and you're a member, you can always ask questions in our different support channels, and you can always send an email and go, I know you have to have this. Where is it? And we'll point you right to it every time. So it's like a challenge to go, we know exactly where that Easter egg is, even though we've worked really hard to make things transparent. There's a lot out there, but we have hive mind. We know where it is. So, Cliff, okay,
yeah,
gotta
cool.
ask.
Oh, what's that?
Everybody, I got a lot of emails from people when I shared like your claim to fame, and they just want to know, I know the world's best has been part of it, but what can you tell us about how you've not had to sell your services for over a decade?
God, should I have an answer? Should I know the answer to this? I
Well, I know you're vetting on your website with a number of different steps. So maybe are you willing to talk a little bit about that?
yeah, oh yeah, I'm not trying to hide anything.
Yeah.
I feel like it is mostly a word of mouth, which is the worst thing to hear when you're looking for like, give me some secrets, It's like, oh yeah, word of mouth. I remember I was where oh, I can't remember her name. Distinctive Documents. I forgot her name now. Anyway, I was working for another writer, and I remember her saying, I said, "What's your secret?" She said, "I've been doing this for like 15 years. Everybody knows me. They talk about me. My work is great." And that's, how it just keeps coming in. So, at the risk of giving an answer that's not helpful, and I will dig to try to come up with more, it is doing great work, being like extremely attentive to my clients. I mean, not to sound corny, but I love my clients, and I want them to feel loved. So it's a real connection we're making. And so I think they know if they send somebody that they'll get that love, and that's a nice, it's a good feeling for the person sending and of course the person who's getting the service.
Right, right.
So first and foremost, just doing great work. I think out here in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, referrals through like Yelp and Google are pretty paramount. So having some level of ranking there is helpful, right? And you could pay for advertising in that. Fortunately, I have not. But I know that that helps too. When somebody looks me up, sees Yelp, oh, okay, 4.5 stars. He's not a psycho. I'll go to him.
He's at least a
Um,
good psycho. Yeah.
it in terms of vetting, so the I do love the type of clients I get, and maybe I am sort of screening to get really good clients who will make referrals and, and share.
Hmm.
And I try to make it clear that I'm doing this as more than like a copywriter, right? I'm very clear about the impact I think I'm going to have. And so I think the tone of the website is just, it exudes that a little bit. But then you mentioned a pop up. And
Yeah, you have
so,
an assessment, a slideshow, a pop-up. Those are
yeah, I have a gifted, like, maybe that's my secret, my IT guy. Just a gifted, like, business strategist, but also like developer, can just code things and, just really good with systems. But we came up with a widget, and you can, if you want to put something in a shopping cart on my webpage, and it may be turned off right now, But when you order something and you click buy, you actually get blocked, which is like goes against everybody's rules. And it pops up and says, whoa, 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 let's make sure we're a good fit. Um, and that's my way of saying, like, I really want this to be a fit. I'm not just trying to take your money. And so for me, I came up with some alliteration. It's like, I like to work with people who are passionate. So not just about money, people who have time, because I'm about to tell you, I can't even talk to you for a month, right? And so you're going to be angry if I don't preemptively let you know that.
Yeah.
So, and I forgot the P for that. I should have this memorized, but it's essentially making sure they're a good candidate. So that might help as well in a sort of counterintuitive way. I think that's what you were referring to.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, that's actually like, it's like sexy in a subversive kind of way because, like, I tell people,
Yeah.
using some FOMO, that fear of missing out that, hey, I might not be the perfect person for you, or,
Yeah, yeah.
you're going to have to wait a month for me. These things that you're scared, not you, but that someone might be scared to do because they don't want to lose a client are actually, I have a wait list. Those are actually the very things that make people line up to,
Yeah.
there must be something here worth waiting for. So I think it's interesting. It's like, no, I'm not accepting all clients. Are you this? Are you that? Oh, yes, I am. I got to work with Cliff,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. It does work that way, where sometimes I'll actually be trying to get rid of, like, "Hey, I can't work with you for, like, 3 months," and then they're like, "Oh, I'll wait. That sounds great." It's like, I am not to work. I don't wanna that sounds pompous. I'm
No, no, no,
grateful.
but I know we totally understand what you mean when you,
It's the type of client. It's
yeah,
not I mean,
yeah.
nobody wants to refuse work, right?
Right, right. Don't worry. Everybody understands. We all have somebody. I mean, just like you're not
Yeah.
gonna love working with them, they're probably not gonna love working with you either. So it goes both
Yeah.
ways. If they're not an ideal client, it's gonna be like, oh, I was looking for, the militant approach, and you're the laid back Cliff approach.
That's the secret sauce,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And
It's
I know, so I didn't push it, but I know that the award, like you said, is something you've
Oh,
still.
that's for sure. Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's a baseline. Like, if you are stagnant and don't have enough business to get an award or a certification, if you don't have one, you just have to do that.
Yes.
Because it's the external validation to point out that you're worth working with. And I do think our little industry has grown and people are aware of certifications at the very least, right? And I do think they're looking for somebody that has that kind of training. So you want to that's kind of the bare minimum. You've got to do
Right.
that and
And
then you can work on the marketing, right?
yeah, and I've always looked at the whole certification thing as the industry has grown as, we have this pool and it used to be a pool with just a few fish swimming in it, certified people. And now there's a lot of certifications out there, even though they mean different things. Some of them are really easy to get. So
Yeah.
you've got an orange while everybody else has got an apple, but job seekers don't necessarily know that. But an award is always cream of the crop. That is
Yeah.
something that, and unless it's an award for participation, but we don't have those in resume writing, so we haven't stooped to that level. It's awards for excellence. People understand awards, and I like to think I know. It's not even thinking that from the very first award I won in the '90s, up through the ones that led to me being on the board of PRWRA, which is now CDI that I run, and all the things I've accomplished, it became is somebody wanted the best. I want the best to take over resumes for dummies. I want the
Yeah.
best to run the U.S. Treasury's transition program because I'm the director of HR and I'm being laid off. And they weren't looking for the best, outplacement company. They were looking for the best resume writer who
Yeah.
was an award winner. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a no-brainer. And if you were on my show a few weeks ago where I talked about the Tories, or if you go to the Tory page, which you can find on the replay page, there'll be a link. I share like 7 ways you will grow and win just by deciding to enter. You don't have to win to actually grow. Cliff, you said it yourself earlier about,
Hmm.
you'll challenge yourself when you decide to do something extra. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
Yeah. I've had, and on that note, in going for Tories, and I admit I've been last minute a few years, that happens. And so I'll grab one of my best resumes and I'll say, let me just zhuzh it, for
You should.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I end up working on it for like 2 hours,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's not painful work. It's like you just kind of get deep down, in these levels of like, you're making it your best thing ever.
Right.
But that's happened multiple times where I'm sort of like, let me just quickly make sure I'll add a splash of color,
Right.
and then it's just all of a sudden I'm dropping shadows and I have to, it's
Right. I
and
call this.
pulling out the cool thing about awards too is I can pull out a bullet if it just doesn't fit, right? If like I need to balance content or something, because
Yeah.
it's not for the client. I
Right.
could literally just cut out a piece and not have it,
Right.
because the judge is never gonna know, right?
Right.
You just
Exactly.
have to make sure you're not cutting out the best accomplishment that blows everybody away or whatever.
Right. Right. It's still
It's all
coming
good.
from your mind and your expertise and what you would have done for that perfect candidate. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
call
could
this
leave
TORI.
things on the cutting room floor. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Any last bits of encouragement or anything else? We've talked about a lot, so there doesn't have to be anything
Yeah.
else, but I just got to ask.
Yeah,
Anything else for our audience to know?
I'm sure it's coming through. We're having almost more fun than I think people expect on a career call. But our industry is super rewarding. So if you're new, welcome because it's just great. And if you're in it and maybe feeling a bit stagnant, you could find the love again. I mean, I've certainly been there.
Yeah.
Um, what one thing that comes to mind is volunteering. I know we give that advice as a coach, but sometimes, especially if I have a run of some just kind of run of the mill, like a marketing manager looking to be a director, I will do the resume of like, this has happened a lot actually, of a Lyft driver. I've done like 3 like drive share people like what do you do? Oh, I'm in between jobs, it happens all the time. And in fact, my wife is constantly getting me. She's like, I got you another client. Sorry.
Sorry.
Like cuz I'm either not paying or it's deeply discounted.
Right.
But I so it it kind of reminds me of why I do the work, it brings me back to not exchanging money for it, doing it completely to tap back into all the other important stuff as to why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I recently did a dog, I think it was my first one, a dog walker resume. And the reason that I was able to do that, and they paid me, but it was because their boss, the person whose dog they were walking, paid for it,
Oh,
right? And they were like a bazillionaire or something, right? So I did this resume. It was a lot of fun. I did like 3 columns of the different things: dog walking, house sitting, and nannying, I think, childcare, which was the last one. The dogs were most important. um, and it was good, and I didn't it's not happened yet, but I know that the person who paid for it is gonna remember Brightside and
yeah.
Cliff, right?
Mhm.
So there is, it's not just a good feeling. Things just seem to come about when you go out and give something away, you know?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
maybe I'll leave it there. I mean, it's really rewarding, but yeah, it's like, you could think of it like karma, but it's just something very tangible. Comes back around, It
Yeah.
does. Um,
Nice.
yeah.
What a nice close. Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Exactly. Hey, if you're still with us, and I know we've got people who have hung on, listening
Pete.
to all this great talk and stuff, please let's thank him in the chat if you would. Cliff, awesome. I've absolutely loved, getting to hang out with you after so long, and everything that you've shared. So very, very helpful. Hopefully, everybody has taken away some good advice if they're not just here to be your fans, which is fine. And listen, everybody, when you're watching this, again, we'll be highlighting some of Cliff's top tips on the replay page, including some ones you didn't get to hear today, which I always love. I love when I have there's a reason to come over for this additional content. And then all those great resources, the free ones that are available to everyone, and the member ones. If you're not a member yet, go to the join page, get on the wait list. Real simple, careerdirectors.com, click on join, or click on free stuff, and you'll find this wealth of resources that literally one of our current members says he built a 6-figure income business before he even joined, just on what we give away for free. So if it's that good out there, imagine what it's like inside, right? Also, we will be posting to all our social media channels, sharing Cliff's tips as well, so you can follow along there, comment, like, share, tag somebody who could use this advice right now in their business, or who could use Cliff's services. Hey,
Thank you for the plug.
Yeah, exactly. And as a reminder, don't forget to click through and learn about the TORIs. All you have to do is click on one of those social posts or in the email I'm sending, because that deadline for that amazing bonus to become worthy of a world's best or a TORI is going to end on Tuesday. All right, we have talked about a lot, and I'm not going to go into anything else except teasing you about my next guest. So if you found this valuable, definitely reach out to Cliff, but also think about joining us next time. And I'll say real quick, Hal says, thanks, Cliff. And Joan says, Cliff, thanks a lot. I lived in San Jose, Menlo Park, Palo Alto, and Tiburon. It's a small world.
Yeah.
But we're continuing next week. I have a new guest. However, it's taking a slightly different slant. So far, I've been interviewing members, and some of them have been members of the Career Industry Accelerator Club. Starting next week, I've got 4 guests in a row who have also all been private clients of mine in the CDI Career Business Profit Rocket Individualized Consulting Program. And that's where I work one-to-one to laser focus on a resume writer or career coach's typically business needs, and provide the tools to take it seriously to the next level. So my first guest next week is going to be Brenda Bernstein of the Essay Expert. And just to tell you a little bit about Brenda, Cliff knows Brenda, both attending conferences at the same time. So a former public interest lawyer, Brenda has had her business for 15 plus years, and she says she now attracts the best writers in the industry to subcontract for her. She now sells packages that include senior level executive resumes, LinkedIn profiles, and bios for $5,000. And she's also the best-selling author of How to Write a Killer LinkedIn Profile, a go-to book for job seekers and resume writers alike. And I'll also add that she says she doesn't know where she'd be without CDI, and like Cliff and my prior guest, Deborah, last week, she's also a TORI winner. So be sure, there's starting to see something in common here, right? So please be sure to mark your calendars. Wednesday, 3:45 Eastern, we'll be going live on CDI's Facebook page, not group, although we'll announce it in the group, our LinkedIn page, and on our YouTube channel. So that's all I've got for today. Cliff, you have been awesome. I've loved it today.
Yeah, can I make a plug for my blog?
Yeah.
Because you could certainly find me on all the socials and LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect. But I do write just Monday morning blog, so you could sign up. It's sincerelycliff.com, and it's not like a recruiting, like resume career thing. It is really just to be a happy moment in your day. It's a happy one in mine when I'm writing it. But I'm getting a lot of great feedback. People love it. So check it out. Yeah, love to have you.
We all need positive stuff on Mondays, so I like it.
Right? Yeah.
All right. Oh, let's see. I think we got one more comment in the chat here. Hal says he will definitely be on that one next week. Awesome, Hal. Thank you. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to thank Cliff and thank everybody else for joining us today. This has been an awesome interview. I really appreciate you. And everybody, I hope to see you next week. And until then, let's all fly higher. Bye-bye.